Hello, Earle Pughe here. Today I'm looking at some blues turnarounds. So we're going to do these in the key of C and using no open strings. We're also only going to use strings 1, 2, 3, 4 and only the first 5 frets of the guitar. So I'm trying to keep this manageable. A turnaround in a blues is the last 2 measures of the 12-bar form. So measures 11 and 12. We're going to do measures 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we get that sort of resolution into the 1 chord at measure 11, and then we've got the turnaround. So the simplest blues turnaround really wouldn't have a turnaround. It would resolve to the 1, it would stay on the 1, it would repeat, and it would still be on the 1. So it would be, and it would just be 5 for 2 measures, and then you'd have 1 for 2 measures on that last line, measures 9, 10, 11, 12. In this first example, I'm only going to use chord tones, and I'm only going to play 2 notes per measure. Important to be able to play something simple and have it make sense. So the purpose of a turnaround is to get you back to the top. So it will, we'll have 1 extra measure, which would be the first measure of the next chorus, the next time through the form. If you imagine a G7 chord at fret 3, that would be the 5 chord in the key of C. We've got a G7 arpeggio. We're only going to use notes from that arpeggio: G, B, D, F, G. So I slid into the first one. So B, G, F, D. So only chord tones. Now we get to the C chord, measure 11. So I sort of played, I guess, a couple extra notes in that measure, but they were really in anticipation of the next measure. So even though we're staying on the C chord, we're going down to that G note, which sort of says, okay, we need to go back to the top now. And then at the top, I went and 1. So if we make that just a little more interesting, we're going to add the 4 chord in that last line. So it's going to go from the 5-7 chord down to the 4-7 chord down to a 1-7 chord. So I'm imagining the same shape for the G7 and the F7, and I'm imagining that C7 at the 3rd fret just because it gives me a nice arpeggio. So there's the C, E, G, B flat, and I can also get the lower G and a lower B flat. So I've got plenty of notes available. This is the second turnaround on the PDF. On the G chord, we're going to play 3 notes per measure in this example. So we got 1 more chord, and we've got 1 more note per measure. So I'm imagining that G7, hit a B, hit a G, hit an F. And imagining the F7, we'll hit the E flat, the C, and the A. So only chord tones, and we get to the C7, G, C, B flat, G, G, C. This is example number 3. We're going to go from a G7 to an F7 to the C7 and then back to the G7. So we're going to, instead of just implying that we're on the 5 chord. We're actually going to go there, and then that's going to send us back to the 1 chord at measure 1. So the lick on the G. So if you imagine that G7, it's right out of that shape. Then we'll go to the F. Then the C7. In this example, we've got 1 more chord and 1 more note per measure. So 4 notes per measure and 4 chords. Fourth turnaround, we're still in the key of C. We've got 5, 4, 1. However, the 1's only going to be 2 beats. Then we're going to go to an A7, so C7, A7, then a D7, and then the G7 that's going to send us back to the 1 of measure 1. Now, we're going to add 1 extra note per measure, or 1 extra note per chord, and it's going to be the raised 2. So on the G7, G, B, D, F are our chord tones. We're going to use the A sharp to get us to the B. On the F7, relatively speaking, the same note. F, G sharp to the A, so that half step into the 3, 5, flat 7. And on the C chord, same thing. We got a C, D sharp into E, and a G and a B flat. On the A7, we could have so that C to C sharp. On the D, we'll have the I'm going to call it an E sharp because it's a raised 2. So E sharp into the F sharp. So we get a little chromatic motion here, and we've got 1 note on every chord that is not a chord tone. This 5th example, it's a little bit more jazz oriented. Instead of going 5, 4, 1, it's going to go 2 for a full measure, 5 for a full measure, 1 for a full measure, and then a quick 2-5 back to the 1. So a little bit more jazz oriented, and put in a few extra notes, and basically there's 6 notes per measure. So I've been adding an extra chord and an extra note sort of with each example. So they're getting progressively more difficult. The 6th example, this one is more jazz oriented. That first lick is stolen from Tenor Madness. So it's a more jazz-oriented example. We're going to use the major 7 against the minor 7 chord, kind of a Charlie Parker thing. So the D minor 7 arpeggio would be, but Charlie's going to use that on the quick D minor 7 at the end. We're going to use the flat 5 instead of the natural 5. So we've got D, F, A flat, C, D, as opposed to D, F, A, C, D. hope you've enjoyed this video on turnarounds in a C blues. There's nothing matter with kind of the Robert Johnson based C blues turnaround. But it's kind of nice to just add a different flavor. So get away from the pentatonics and focus on chord tones. This will give you a different sound. It's one more trick in your bag of tricks. So have a great week, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.